warrior. It is an incredible treat to welcome back not only a dear friend, a colleague, but just one of the top warriors that I know. And her name is Tammy Toney-Butler. Tammy is here today. I can't even take all the time to describe about Tammy. We're going to jump right into conversation, but let me just tell you a couple of things. She's very brave. That is my opinion, whether she likes that word or not. She's very brave. She speaks out. She speaks from her heart. She speaks from her faith, from her truths. She is a child sex trafficking survivor. She went on, she found the strength to become an emergency room nurse, a SANE nurse, sexual assault nurse examiner. She went on to pack up at one point, move with her husband and started a ranch, a healing ranch, a reflective ranch, Reflective Spaces Ministry in Florida. And she is the co-founder of Nurses United Against Human Trafficking and also of Reflective Spaces Ministry. And this is a woman that inspires me. So I felt like we haven't spoken in a little bit. It is time to have Tammy Toney-Butler rejoin me, lift our spirits, and lift everybody out there because we got a lot to chat about. So Tammy, before I go on and on about you and how great you are, welcome back to the Warriors.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Lynn. It's such an honor, and everything that I am is because of my faith. You know, Christ set me free, so I can't take credit for any of those wonderful accolades. They all just come from Him.
I don't know. That's where we could debate a little bit. I'm agreeing with you 1,000% about that. But Tammy, so to speak, I've been around the block. You've been around the block. This is tough work, and there really aren't a lot of warriors like you. I think maybe I could count them. Well, there is nobody that can compare to you. And I mean that. I mean that from the bottom of my heart when I say that, because before we started chatting, and this is the truth, we know about the problem of human trafficking, sexual exploitation, domestic violence, child things that are happening, right? We know it's bad. I'm tired, Tammy, of just talking about how bad everything is. We know it. We need solutions. We need resources. We need those take actions. We need the manpower, woman power. Would you agree with this assessment? Because I want to put my focus on that. Enough with, the $1,000 conferences. And I'm not knocking it because people do need to raise awareness. People do need education. We'll get into that a little bit. Law enforcement needs to learn how to deal with potential victims or so I understand the public needs education. But I got to tell you, Tammy, I'm getting a little tired of getting invited to, come here for $1,000, come here. And it's people just talking to themselves. We got to get out there, boots on the ground into the communities. And that's exactly what you do with the ranch. So tell me your assessment of what I just unloaded on you, because I've been thinking about it since yesterday, all of this.
Oh, well, boy, that's a lot to unpack. So we'll start one bite of the elephant at a time. We are way beyond the stage of awareness of the problem, education. We need education, but we need a robust education and not these, can you come speak to me for 15 minutes or an hour on human trafficking and sexual exploitation? We cannot do that any longer. The landscape has changed because we have technology's influence. We have artificial intelligence. We have a borderless environment to where the predators can just come into the home, and it's eroding the privacy and sanctity of the home, putting parents at risk as well, and in a hostile environment, because now they are forced to deal with issues that never got through the front door before. Not only are they through the front door, they're in the bedrooms of your children. They're in your dining room. They're in our schools, because everybody has a cell phone. These kids have social media and platforms. Now you have artificial intelligence. And yet Congress has not acted. We have all these pieces of legislation that always get introduced, but it's time to act. It's not time to feel good. It's time to do good. So any event that we go to where we want to feel good, Does it have an impact? Is it showcasing us, ourselves, our flesh, or are we tackling the problem? Because there's a war in America going on with our children, God's children. We have to act now. I just got back from Washington, D.C. I went there, met with several of the senators' teams, Tillis's team, Blumenthal's teams. I was in contact with Blackburn's team. We must pass the Kids Online Safety Act. We also must pass the Earn It Act and deal with Section CDA 230. We have to grab the bull by the horns. We have to fight. Fight as Americans, fight as parents. We have to unite. There can no longer be this division. Our democracy is at stake. More is at stake here than you could fathom. I recently handed Congress, congressional leaders in this space, in their offices, a 66-page document that highlighted the risk to our national security, our public health and economic systems. We must act, and we must act now in a unified, coordinated effort, rein in technology, and pass these vital pieces of legislation.
Amen. You know, I told you, Tammy, I'm breaking into laughter. I think it's better than crying these days. But here's the thing. So I've been doing a lot of work here, our state capital, Albany, going up there. And just yesterday, press came out with Meta and Google alone have put in about $1 million of lobbyists, big tech lobbyists, to fight these two little bills we have. One is just you can't sell, under 18, the children's, information, very basic, very simple. And the other is the SAFE Act that, we have some guardrails. It's around these social media. A parent has to be involved, somebody of age, if you're going to sign on to certain apps. And I'm breaking it down very simply so everyone can understand. Even our governor, Kathy Hochul, agrees to this bipartisan legislation. Our attorney general, Letitia James, supports this legislation. Yet it's called a whisper campaign. Tammy, I never really heard about these whisper campaigns. It's a new thing for me. Behind the scenes, they are fighting tooth and nail. And even, it's going to get a little political here. Democrats are whispering. We're in New York. It's a very Democratic state. They've never seen anything like this. The amount of money being poured in to oppose anything child safety. So when I hear this, and we've gone up to Albany with parents about their children, either self-harm, oh my goodness, have lost their lives, have been influenced to subway surf, all these different things. Why do you think there is such resistance? You go to Washington with that 66 pages. We got to just publish that as like a Bible. Seriously. And get that into everybody's hands, like thousands, the entire. Why? Why is there this resistance when there's proof, Tammy? What do you think about this?
Well, let me start by saying there's only one Bible. So we'll just leave that there.
Oops, sorry. You know what I mean? We'll rename it, but we'll have a Tammy New Bible, but I'll give it another name.
I will tell you that everything that I do is divinely inspired. Mm-hmm. And let me be crystal clear. It doesn't matter how much money and how much power they have. We serve an almighty God. He wants his children protected because there's a war and evil going on against his children. He is the number one constituent. In God we trust. He is the number one constituent that this great nation was founded upon. Yes. Biblical principles, God. When we take God out and we prioritize profits over people, there will be repercussions to pay. We must, and I know that we will, because God wants this legislation passed, and it will be passed because his will be done. And that's what, it doesn't matter how much money Google and everybody else has in their power, because I don't serve them. I serve God. And I know without a doubt, this legislation will be passed this session Not another session will go by to where we do nothing, because we must act. Our gross healthcare expenditures, our overwhelmed juvenile justice system, the judiciary, the healthcare facilities, the recidivism rates. When we look at the cost to house inmates, when we look at everything that is draining our economy, these organized, these violent extremist organizations that are being manifested, generated through social media, a new typology of offending. We even have drones now, drones that sexual predators are using to gain access to children, because it doesn't matter if they can't go to a certain neighborhood or they have to publish where they are. A drone can go anywhere. So we have now a new threat. Everything that we know is being invaded. Where is the sanctity of the home? And as parents, they are becoming these unwanted invasions are becoming a nuisance. And we must step up, just like adult entertainment, when adult bookstores and things could no longer just have nude photos that a child or anybody could walk by. These ads and algorithms that these social media and interactive computer technology devices and these companies have, that are exposing us to this unwanted, this harmful content, has to stop. Just like we passed legislation for the use of an ATV in children, labor laws to protect children, a driving age standard, knowing that the prefrontal cortex capability, the immaturity of the brain for our children to handle what is being thrown at them, knowing that that exists, then we absolutely must act now. Social media companies are culpable. They need to get in line with what's going on, because they themselves are a weapon of mass destruction. They are destroying our country. They are prioritizing profits over people, and that cannot stand any longer. We are and will be victorious when we unite and come together and say, I don't care who donated to your campaign. I don't care how much money is being spent in Washington. We want our children protected, and we want them protected now. They will be protected, or we will not vote you into office again. You will not be reelected. You put children first. You put God's children first, because He is speaking. Look at all the mass casualty incidents. Look at everything that is happening. Yeah. Look at the porous borders. So much is going on. And I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican, or if you're gay or straight, white or black, atheist. I don't care if you are a Baptist, Catholic, if you're a Muslim. I don't look at those things. I look at an individual. I look at the downstream effects that we are mass producing victims that we cannot handle. Our EMS system is so overwhelmed with the opioid overdoses, which we all know, in the fentanyl overdoses, and that in itself, we all know that addiction is a means of coping with an underlying trauma. And we are mass producing victims. If you go to call 911 because your relative is having a heart attack, your child is not breathing, that system is so overwhelmed that you will not get an ambulance that you need. There is a delay because of all the drugs coming into this country, and they have a direct link to social media's influence, social media being used as a platform of hate, as a platform of crime. and organized crime groups are using it to generate economic revenue for their criminal enterprises. We have to act, and we have to act now. I've been saying this and saying this and saying this, and it's not acceptable anymore to go to meeting after meeting and nothing get accomplished. I get things done, whether it's out in the pasture putting up fence posts, whether it's speaking in DC, whether it's out on the streets delivering food to individuals. I'm out there with these individuals. It is a dark landscape out there, but we are the light, and the light always, always wins.
I want everybody to follow everything Tammy is saying, because no, but that's really, you said so many things, Tammy, and you always do. That opens my mind up. It's really about, our warriors hashtag community creates change. It's really getting into the community and servicing the community and helping the community cope with this, as you point out, dark landscape. I want everybody to know I have all of Tammy's information, her website, her podcast, everything will be in the body of this video, because there's a lot of great information that we want you to follow and help Tammy with all of this. Now, let me just go back. Tell me a little bit more about this drone. How is this drone? This is something new I'm hearing from you. How are they utilizing drones now to exploit children, people? What are you hearing?
Well, they can. There was a article that was published, that was put out by Cambridge. Let's see if I can locate it again. By Cambridge University. I don't want to misspeak. I've got it right here. I'm sorry. By Campbell Law Review.
Okay.
And it's The Peering Predator. Drone technology leaves children unprotected from registered sex offenders. It's a very interesting read, Campbell Law Review. And basically, drones can have cameras attached to them.
Right.
And wanted footage can be taken of us in our homes where we believe that we're private, or in our schools. So they can fly these drones over military bases. They can fly these drones everywhere. And predators can gain access to them, even if they're on, these predator lists and things, and they can use them to take photos of children in the parks and all the places that they can't technically go. And so it can create a new, yet another way to exploit our children, and even us. I mean, if they take photos of us and we don't want anybody coming into our backyard, what if we're sunbathing or doing something we don't want? And you've got this invasion of privacy. And they're becoming a nuisance, as well as the social media. And, if you go into Facebook, into your chat section, or open it up and you've got thousands of friend requests and all of these men, and you open them up and you see all these sexually suggestive photos and ads. I don't want to see that. But yet I need to look at my social media, especially all of us with businesses. I mean, we live in a virtual world, and I love technology. I'm not against technology. Trust me. But we have to harness the power of it effectively, use it for our good, but stop our children from being impacted. And yes, I'm going to say it. It needs to be the age of 16. And just like you got a learner's permit and got educated before you can navigate a car, and to make our roadways safe, even these electric cars, these autonomous, I can't say that word, cars, they have regulation. Everything has regulation, but not technology companies. Why is that? Because it's money driven. They know what they're doing, and they are prioritizing children over profits, evil over profits. That's not good for our democracy. When our children are affected, when you have a generation, the anxious generation, that can no longer work, pour into the economy, are draining the economy. We have 6-year-olds now, 8-year-olds that are having issues. Who's going to work? Who's going to care for individuals if everybody's sick and on disability? This can bankrupt our Medicare, our Medicaid systems, all those things that we put in place. We have to stop. And what is the root? Mass producing victims on a scale we can't handle through technology. Google, everybody needs to stand up. They need to say, you know what? We messed up. We did do this. We know now. Let's all work together to fix it. Let's stop this problem now. Step up. Step up. Because I can tell you right now, as a woman of faith who's been known to be God's mouthpiece, and everybody knows me, they know that. He's not pleased. He's not pleased. And what was this country founded on? But goodness and children, safety. We came to this country for a better life. Many people did. This isn't the America that we want to see. There's a dark path here. We have to choose to walk towards the light.
So that's, again, so many things you're blowing my mind, as the kids say, Tammy, but it's different. We had the laws with seatbelts, drinking, bicycle helmets. Mm-hmm. How do we get, because I'm spending a lot of time now educating the parents, the grandparents, it has to be in the home, again, at that community level. How can you actually regulate an entire population? Because and I know, let's be real here. There are a lot of parents that are concerned. They just don't have the information. When they hear it, they are going to take steps. They're going to want to help. There are those, and this is the slippery slope, they don't care. If it keeps the kids out of their hair, or the kids are busy, I don't know how you actually enforce say legislation does become. How does it actually get enforced? Because the kids, they're savvy. They know how to buy the burner phones. They know how to get around pins. They know. How are we actually going to make this happen? It's a big question. It's a big question, but we have to do it. I feel like the time is now. It's right now. It's like now. We can't wait any longer.
We can't wait any longer, and we can't not act because we're afraid to act. I don't have fear. We can do this. We will do this. We will do this, and we can. And immediately pass legislation that says you cannot, going forward, have a social media platform download to your phone if you're the age of 16. Until you're the age of 16. You can't have Facebook and those things. And at age 15, you're going to start getting educated. You're going to have to prove that you were educated, just like you do with a learner's permit and other things. You're going to have to prove, and show that you've been educated appropriately. We do need to educate every law enforcement personnel, judiciary, school nurse, healthcare provider, everyone appropriately, which is why we built Nurses United Against Human Trafficking. And also there's another company out there, Dan Nash's company, with regards to, they are educating the law enforcement officers in those. They have an amazing training as well. We have to get the appropriate training done. And ours has been vetted and approved. I'm no longer on the board with Nurses United. I've come off of all of that. Dr. Bonaneri is running that. She just recently got recognized at the United Nations for the pioneering work that is being done in that space for bringing care to that marginalized population of human trafficking survivors and victims. But anyway, we have to start immediately educating on discharge instructions. There's such a pathway that we can do this. There's so many things that we can start immediately. This isn't the first time that this has happened. You just pass it, and you have a committee that comes together that is a robust committee with individuals, all key players that come together in this space that are known for getting things done, not just going to meeting or taking photos, but actually are ready to tackle this threat, this imminent threat that's against our country. We basically It's like it needs to be declared a state of emergency, and we
Yes.
mobilize a team that says, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do it immediately. And I know how to put it forth in the healthcare, sector, and also out in the community. There's so many ways for us to get this done. We need to get the parents educated, immediately. But we have to just pass the legislation. And I've spoken to many parents whose children have been victimized through sextortion scams, who are depressed, have eating disorders. A lot of them after COVID, they didn't let their children have access to the cell phones, to the interactive computer, services as far as social media platforms and those things. But with COVID and everybody being homebound, they relented. Now they don't know how to put that back in the box and take that back away. And they see the marked change in their children. They see it. But now they don't know how to stop. And they are saying, please pass a law, please pass something so that we can say, you can't get in a car without putting on your seatbelt. It's the law. At least we can say that. Now, there may be parents that say, you know what? I'm not going to do it. There's parents that say, I'm not going to vaccinate my children. I'm not here for that. The outcome is not up to us as far as that goes. We put the legislation in place. We put the parameters and the borders. People have free will. They're going to choose. But there are those parents that are going to say, and there's going to be people like me that says, put that seatbelt on or I'm not turning the car on. And they're going to say, you can't. You're not going to be able to have that and download Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or those things until I know that you're safe with it, until the law says that you can have the maturity in your brain to be able to handle the downstream effects. These kids do not realize that if they go for an interview, that employer is going to go back and pull up years of social media. They're going to look to see if they have an account. And any video, anything they put out of themselves, they're going to look to say, do I want to hire this individual? And we all know we do stupid things. Praise God, there wasn't a cell phone and all this selfies and stuff when I was out there. Whew, I can only imagine what of me, because I did some stupid things.
Don't try to take credit for all of it, Tammy. I was right there too.
Listen, I'm a sinner. I was a sinner. I did stupid things, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I hope nobody has a photo of that. And you know what I mean? But we do things because we did not know. We didn't know. And so in essence, we're protecting them from themselves because they don't understand and know. But there is clearly a way forward. There's so many, so many strategies. And that was in my action plan that I put forth in a policy brief is, this is the scope of the problem. And now this is what we do. And this is how we act. And I already have, answers to how to start doing it. You can blame me. You can have your children blame me when you take that cell phone away, or you're like, no, I'm not going to do it. But kids are dying. This is serious. And the romance scams in our elderly population as well. Social media has become a way for criminals to just gain access to the most vulnerable, marginalized individuals, those that are lonely, hopeless, or the widows and the orphans and different individuals. And they are getting scammed out of so much money. And that is impacting all of us. We have to say no more. We have to say no more. It's no longer acceptable or permissive not to act. To act is a must, and to not act, I believe, is a direct threat to this country and our democracy. So unite, come together, and let's rein in social media companies from now on. Let's say no more, not on our watch.
I love that because we preach this constantly. And I'm here in New York saying we have to take to Times Square. We have to go in the streets. We have to anything to raise awareness and get people to understand. You pointed out, which I agree, this is to me an American crisis. This is the true epidemic. Just since we even met, Tammy, just a few, even though I feel like I know you my whole life, a few short years ago, can't you? I witness how this is speeding up. and where it's just becoming every day worse and worse. And getting back to the drones, you know, people forget these deep fakes. So you could be in the park playing with your child. They take a picture of your 5-year-old, and the next thing, your child's face is on a porn website. People
Yes.
have to understand, not only will it happen, it is actually already happening.
Right.
We just don't, you know, we just heard about Scarlett Johansson. Her voice was used on some sort of AI. But let me ask you something. I don't know if I should be bothered by this, or if the bottom line is anything that gets Kids Online Safety Act passed. So, Tammy, the language in Kids Online Safety Act was recently amended. So, do you know about any of this? This happened maybe, I want to say, a month ago. Because and I'm breaking it down to make it very easy for everybody. The language said something like all children. Okay, children. That was the word. That was a sticking point. In order to get a few more co-sponsors, they had to add, not only leave the children, and LBTQ something, they had to add specifically that in. And people were saying, we do mean all children. All children. Why do we have to put that? And that was a sticking point. I don't know if a lot of people know this, that until that language was added in, then the next day it got a few more co-sponsors. It's moving up the chain a little more. What do you think about something like that? Should I let it go and say anything that gets the job done, it's okay? Or again, it seems like an agenda pushed here. We're talking about all children, whether they're gay or whatever, but the language had to be changed.
Well, children are under attack, and there's been some horrible violence and things perpetrated against the LGBTQI, 2S individuals, and they are marginalized and targeted. And they imagine, can't even imagine, but imagine that they haven't come out yet, and there's a photograph of them in a park somewhere, and or on a college campus, and they've not come out to their parents or their clergy or anyone. Imagine if someone comes and threatens them with that photograph or that piece of information that they've gleaned through technology of some kind. And now they're blackmailing them. We're going to put it out to the whole school, to the whole neighborhood, that you're gay. And yet you're the captain of a football team or a cheerleader or someone in a political party. Imagine if they have that on you. You'll do anything to see that not come to fruition, or you'll take your life, sadly. So to say that this is impacting them negatively to pass legislation that would rein in tech is wrong. We have to do it. They are being exploited and hurt. Let me be clear on something. I spent almost 30 years in the emergency department, starting from let me see, I'm going to date myself, maybe around 1989, 90-ish, 90, I think, until I left, about 5 years ago, maybe 6. Don't quote me. I can't remember exactly, but all that time that So when did social media and the technology and all that come in back, in the 80s, right? Around that time, I think 80s. So,
well, really, it started around 96, more on a mass level. There was
okay.
stuff happening in the 80s, but not the
Yes.
average home, and kids and adults
Yes.
didn't, but really 96, in the
Okay.
90s.
So I was working in the ER before that, during that time, and even interacting in the emergency room, even going into the ERs as a sexual assault nurse examiner just until a couple of years ago. I can tell you, I saw a marked change in everything. The overwhelming amount of adolescents that were coming in for behavioral health manifestations, wanting to die by suicide, overwhelming the emergency departments, no facility able to take them, and they would spend days in the emergency department, days in an ER waiting to get placed in a Baker Act or behavioral health care facility. Okay, that exponentially increased That caused there to be no beds to offload ambulances. That caused a backup of the 911 system. I lived this, and a lot of us, and we didn't know those that were pioneers and in the trenches. I always did ER in bedside, and just we didn't know what we were seeing. That's technology. That's social media. That's this impact, this negative impact that it has. And I saw firsthand what it's doing. And now post COVID and everything that's happening, and the fact that there's a shortage of healthcare workers, it's not a pretty landscape. But I don't want anybody to have fear. God's not a God of fear. He's of love and power and a sound mind and hope and joy. But I'm sounding the alarm. I'm telling you, we need to protect these children, stop all this, and come together and unify as a country, as a world. It's time now. It's time. It's time.
You know, Tammy, I should point out, we're not trying to scare or frighten anybody. We want people to know the reality, because a lot of people don't have the reality at their fingertips. They don't hear the things you and I are discussing. They just don't know about them. And it's not their fault. They have busy lives. They're not actually knowing what's happening up in Albany or in DC where you just were. So it's our jobs. I feel like it's our jobs. We really have to share this information, no matter how dark it seems, because people will say to me, Lynn, that's ugly. And I'm like, yes, but you need to know what's going on so we can correct it. And we can talk to our kids and talk to each other and know what's happening. That is always our goal: education, prevention, intervention, helping the warriors out there understand the landscape. And although bumpy, we got Tammy, so I think we're in good hands. We're good with Tammy. Now, let me ask you about the ranch. What's happening? What is happening on the ranch? Give us some whatever about the ranch.
Oh, well, I've got a lot of bruises. I just finished putting in about 600 square feet or longer of fencing. So we've been doing a lot of fencing. And then we have a new cow mate coming, friend coming for our bottle-fed heifer cow Hope that we had rescued. She was orphaned by her mother, and we raised her up. She's like my puppy dog, about 1,000 pounds. She follows me around. And so now we have a friend coming. So we're preparing for that friend. And just God, God's been doing such amazing things with environment and hope and healing, and people getting delivered from addiction and from the chains that have bound them, the strongholds that are on. And there is hope, there is healing, there is freedom. I found it. I don't have the food addiction anymore and the sex addictions and all those other things. God just, he did a whirlwind change, and there's hope. And so many people are focused now on survival. Groceries cost so much money. Gas. There's virtually hardly any middle class. It's getting really bad in that landscape. People are struggling just to put food on their table, just to protect their children, just to go to work and function. A lot of parents are parenting in the aftermath of trauma themselves, as my mom did, which opened me up to being victimized. She did the best she could, but she made choices that put me in the hands of predators. And I don't fault my mom. She's deceased now, and I lost my dad to suicide. But we must recognize trauma is impacting many families. There's parents out there that are trafficking their children to get the rent paid or to fuel their addictions, to cope with their own underlying trauma that they suffered. It's dirty, it's dark, but there's hope and there's healing. And I'm not here to judge anyone. Praise God, God didn't judge me when I, got my healing, and I'm not here to do that. I'm here to shine a light into the darkness and let you know that there's hope, and that's what we do on the ranch, and bring those positive, peaceful stillness into a chaotic world.
I love that. ReflectiveSpacesMinistry.com, A&K Ranch. I'm going to have, again, all that information in the body so people can take their time, read up. Warriors, Tammy needs volunteers. She needs donations. She needs whatever you can spare, from tube socks. I still call them tube socks, Tammy. I'm not sure they're still called that, but tube socks, uh, toiletries, always monetary donations, because Tammy does what I call the real work, and that is the healing, because it's really about prevention and education. But in the meantime, it also has to be about healing for those vulnerable people that need to reclaim their lives. Tammy, what's going on with the podcast?
Oh, the reflective hour is doing great. I've had a lot of survivors comment that they like it. We had so many people coming to the land and going and me interacting with individuals, and they felt like they needed a little something more. And so it gives us the ability to scale the healing, to have this reflective podcast that's, I can't describe it, but it's a lot of junk in the trunk, but going through it and showing the grace of the Lord, and how he, got me through certain things. And I recommend you go back to episode 1 and start there, because that's my personal testimony. And then each episode kind of builds, and it just allows us the ability to scale. It also is in languages, it's YouTube format, and it's just getting the word out, letting people know that there's hope, and that there's a way out of the darkness. And that's what that is about. And it has been well received. And I actually had a survivor who kind of had challenged me to answer some of her questions after she had visited the ranch for a healing retreat. And it really birthed the idea of reflective hour. And the Holy Spirit kind of whispered, that knowing, and I'm like, oh, okay, let me do that. And yeah, it's working out. I'm excited about it. And I just go to and fro following the Lord. I truly do.
You do.
Wherever he tells me to go, I go. I'm just a willing vessel to be used for his goodness. And when I show up, you know that a word's coming from the Lord. And I'm showing up now. I'm showing up in DC, and I did, and he got his word in there. So that's it. That's humbly, that's all I have to say.
No, that's not all you have to say, because as we finish up, I want to point out a couple of good things. No, you know what it is, Tammy? People, it actually is very simple. They need encouragement. They need a hand on the shoulder. It all starts with there. They need personal, eye contact. They need a podcast where they can hear things they may not be thinking about or know about. That is the work that needs to be done to heal, and to get people to then stand up and say, let me share this with somebody else, and let it just snowball out into the communities. That is, promise me, you have to keep on this, keep at it, keep doing what you're doing. Now, I want to fill you in, Tammy. There's a few positive things. Recently, did you hear about there's bipartisan legislation being introduced to update Section 230? Did you hear about this?
I did.
Okay, so that's a positive. I like that. We've been talking about that. It is way overdue. I mean, 1996, when this was created, this Section 230 Communications Decency Act, a lot's happened in almost 30 years. So I think this is a good piece of news. The other two good things, I think, there is a resurgence due to online. The next two things. This is where I like the internet. It does create really great things. Again, we live in a digital world. We're not giving it back, so let's leverage it for good. A resurgence of girls and young women and all women being interested in dollhouses. There's kind of this new craze being formed where they're collecting teenage girls, the miniature furniture, and they're getting into the decorating and fabrics. No, I think this is a good thing. And creative play, right? Remodeling old dollhouses, building from scratch. So that's one thing, because I'm all about the arts. Music makes your mind, so much stronger if you have all that going on. And the other thing is, did you hear about boys, usually middle school and high school, a new phase, according to TikTok, they are collecting these designer colognes. So they want to have, like, in their bedrooms, collections of, Tom Ford, $200. They're asking for birthday presents, bar mitzvahs, anything they want to start smelling really good as teenagers. And I'm like, this is good as long as nobody goes out and steals anything. So that they said they learned on TikTok, there's this trend to like take care of yourself, have a really great cologne. I kind of like that. It's spreading across the country. I find those to be sort of positive things going on. And the fact you and me can talk, the internet's great. I mean, this is what it was built for, communication. Do you like any of those new things, Tammy? You're not reacting. Dollhouses, smelling good colognes, any of
Well,
that?
from someone who, sold everything to follow God and moved into a 576 square foot tiny house, and that includes the porch. We have to be very careful that we don't put things in individuals' minds that says material possessions are the way, and expensive cologne and those things, because how are they going to attain it? And then, oh, you don't have this great smelling cologne. Are they going to make fun of you? And for someone who's been bullied also, because of the shoes I wore, because we grew up very poor, it's not cool. And so we have to be very careful that we don't set these trends that society says are really good, but I don't necessarily agree with. One thing that you did say that I really liked, it's when we harness what was old and used up, or people want to discard. And like our barn is over 40 years old. I think they used to hold church services in it. Oh boy, it's in need of a total lift. And so we are redoing beam by beam, support beam, trusses, all those things. We're literally going to rebuild that barn and make it look beautiful piece by piece, to show that just because something is messy or dirty or old or society says isn't worthy, it's still worthy, because worth is on the inside and not on the outside. It's not in the perfumes. It's not in the clothes we wear. The worth is in the heart. It's in the caring, in the attitude, and the love for our fellow man. We have to get back to loving people and loving individuals. Let's let love spread across the internet. Let's let love go forth in peace. Let's ignite that flame and spread it around the world. Let's spread hope instead of all this darkness. Let's spread hope and love, because love transforms. Love frees, especially the love of Christ.
And on that note, I think we should finish, because I was going to, because Tammy, I was going to say some final words, but I think those are the final words. Let's spread the love. Let's spread the love on the internet. Let's spread the love to each other. Let's think about, the material possessions kind of thing. I just thought perhaps instead of kids here in New York subway surfing, young men, all right, if they want to start collecting some cologne, that might be a safer alternative than subway surfing or something like that. I want to make you laugh, Tammy. Before I let you go, what do you have to say? Anything? Again, I'm going to have all your information, the podcast, everything about the ranch, everything your needs, where everybody can donate, will be in the body of the video. Leave us with something. What would you like to say?
I want to say to everybody, pray for your leaders. Pray for this country. Pray for those in power. It's not easy to be in power. It's not easy to be a leader. It's not easy in the church world, in the business world, wherever we are. Leadership is difficult. They need our prayers. They need us to lift their arms up, even as Aaron and Hur did for Moses. We need to lift each other up and strengthen each other. We need to come together as a country and forget all this bipartisan, forget all this divisive politics is what I meant to say. Let's not look at whether you're a Democrat or Republican, white or black. Let's close our eyes. Let's close our eyes and look through our heart and find the solutions to the biggest problems that we have in this country. It's time now. Close your eyes and look through your heart. Look through your heart. Then you don't see color. You don't see race. You don't see political party. You see hope and love, because you're looking through your heart. It's time for an unveiling of the veil that's been on the hearts of America. and the world. That's what I have to say.
Amen.
Amen.
Tammy Toney-Butler, I love you so much. Thank you for all you do, you continue to do, for spreading hope, for spreading just the empowerment, the uplifting, which is really needed right now in our communities with each other. Thank you for always joining me, talking to me, laughing with me, praying with me. I love you to pieces. Tammy Toney-Butler, let us speak again soon. There's a lot going on. We need to keep it up. We need to keep talking to people, let them know what's happening. And with you at the helm of all of this, I know everything you said is going to come true. Thanks, Tammy.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much, Lynn. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.